Hey everybody, I'm Laura DiCarlo of Career Directors International. If you're starting, currently thinking about starting, or actively building a resume writing or career coaching business, I'm so glad you've joined us today. In this show, we share tools, strategy, and mindset tips that lead to your ultimate success without the stress. My guest today is Sandra Allison of SA Resume Services. Hi, Sandra.
Hello, Laura.
You'll be getting a chance to know Sandra here shortly and hear all her tips. Listen, we're currently streaming on CDI's Facebook page, YouTube channel, and LinkedIn page. But the platforms sometimes are a little bit hinky. So do us a favor when you comment, please put your name with your comment. That way we'll always know who we're talking to. That would be super awesome. Makes life easy because I really like to know who's here and who I'm talking to. And if you don't know me yet, my goal is to become your not so secret superpower. At Career Directors International, we provide everything you need to love and excel at what you do so you can make a difference while earning an exceptional living as a career industry professional. Also, a reminder, today is the last day you can join CDI. If you're on the wait list, or you've seen the links, the secret links we've been sharing in our social channels since Monday, then you know about the 48-hour opening. Let me throw up a link here on the screen while I'm doing this intro. careerdirectors.com/buy/membership. Today is the last day that membership is open, probably for 2 or 3 more months. So if you want to get in on all the amazing resources to help you grow your business, enhance your skills, and oh gosh, I always get so excited here because I want to go tell you about all these things. But basically, we have 6 member-included events currently scheduled between April and June. Those are just some of the highlights, the done-for-you white-label tip sheets you can give or sell to job seekers. There's so much value in CDI. So I'll leave that link up while I do my introduction, and I'll try to remind you at the end as well. Today's topic is startup and growth secrets from successfully self-employed resume writers and career coaches. And again, my very special guest is Sandra Allison of SA Resume Services. Sandra, this is going to be a great one. I am super excited about this one. As I shared in the session description, Sandra shared to me that she's redefining the vision of grandma in business as she helps board and C-suite candidates in 22 countries and growing meet their resume writing and career coaching needs in the industries of tech, finance, and pharma. She's got a lot of great, sometimes maybe hardcore advice she says to share, and I love it. I don't have it in front of me. You posted on LinkedIn, and I did grab it from my email. I'm surprised I don't have it in here, but you said something about from unemployed to self-employed, successful at 70, something like that. And I just loved that because it is never too late to start a business and be successful. Let's see. Hey, Janine Bennett says, hello, ladies. This is Janine. Janine, we can actually see your name, so you don't have to comment it. Yay, for once, right? Welcome. We're glad to have you here with us. All right, I know I'm teasing everybody about Sandra, but just 3 quick things before we go forward. Follow Janine's strategy here, and please say hello to us. Let us know you're here. Welcome, Sandra. You can put a hashtag newbie if this is your first time, or just say whatever wonderful thing you want to share in the chat. Again, include your name until we know we can see who you are. Second, if you have questions, please be sure to drop them in the chat. We will be monitoring those as we go today. And then third, if you like what you hear and want to make sure you don't miss out, make sure that you follow, like, and subscribe, depending on what platform you're on, so you don't miss when we go live every week. That's Wednesday at 3:45 p.m. Eastern. All right, so we're continuing on our journey into startup and success secrets of self-employed resume writers and career coaches. Sandra, let me tell you a little bit about Sandra Allison. So since growing up in the 60s, Sandra has had a passion to motivate positive societal change. She majored in journalism in college with hopes of becoming a news writer. but the 1973 to 75 recession sidetracked those goals. She landed in nonprofit management and continued to work for social justice from a different path. After retiring at 58, Sandra discovered ageism in hiring. A self-professed computer geek, she wanted to understand the role technology plays in modern hiring practices. Blah, blah, blah. Listen to me tongue twisting myself. She joined a top firm to become a professional resume writer and learned how to avoid the practices of unintentional and intentional bias, the rules of ATS, how hiring managers read resumes, and the tells that candidates fall into that reveal information about themselves that can't be legally asked. Good stuff. All right, in 2016, Sandra founded SA Resume Services. She has written resume packages for clients spanning 31 states and 22 countries over 6 continents. After 4 years, she found her niche in board candidate and C-suite executive writing. She's still working for societal change, now from the top down. Yay! All right, and she's redefining grandma in business. I love that. And this is, I think, I wrote in prior emails that she, or prior posts about this event, that she's had 3 prior businesses. But did I hear you right when we were connecting before this, that you said this is your 5th business?
It is. It's my 5th business.
Wow.
And the last.
5th and last. All right, I hear that. All right, Janine says yay in the chat. Anyone else, please take a moment to welcome Sandra. Give her a hearty hello. All right, so Sandra, we obviously already know you started your business in 2016, so let's move on to our next question. And if you are here joining us today, and you want to let us know when you started or plan to start your business, please drop that in the chat. So Sandra, tell us a little bit more about your business, your current business.
Well, you said I hit my niche. I did. I found that one of the businesses I had along the way was a bricks and mortar store in a resort town, Cape May, New Jersey. And I was a tea shop. I sold tea to drink, not T-shirts.
Okay, yeah.
I started as coffee, tea, and wine. And then I noticed that nobody wanted coffee and wine. Everybody wanted tea. So I tell a lot of my clients that you don't always choose your business. Sometimes your business chooses you. And I started writing general resumes for what I call a service that cranks them out pretty quickly. The kind of where resume writers brag about doing 1,000 a year.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm lucky if I do 30. And I needed to learn the ropes. It was funny because I was only there a few months when suddenly I was elevated. And I found myself rewriting. They offered a guarantee that if you didn't like your resume, they'd have it rewritten. I ended up rewriting other people's resumes. And that was the first time I had ever written resumes. So I was really surprised. And so was the company. And then I just got headhunted and kept moving forward to a different company, until eventually I ended up with almost exclusively working with technology, pharma, and finance at the C-suite level. And then I was headhunted by someone who is very good, a wonderful coach at board candidacy. And board resumes are so different than regular resumes. I had to unlearn everything I had learned and learn a whole new way of approach. And because I have worked on referrals for 9 years, I have never advertised.
Wow.
My customers ask me, refer me to other customers, and the next thing you know, I was pretty much exclusively doing this. So my niche kind of chose me. I went with it, and with international writing also, because they're the niches nobody chooses.
Right.
Because they're hard. Finance is hard. I've written for surgeons. These are, and technology. I'm a total computer geek, so I get that, but a lot of people don't. And the best way to move forward, I found successfully, is to do what no one else wants to do, because you've cut your competition around way big time doing that. You're much more in demand. So that's why I mainly work in those fields. That has stretched too. Last year, I helped someone who was applying for a franchise, an Amazon franchise. Forgive me for mentioning the name.
That's okay.
And she needed help with her essays, her application. So I told her I wouldn't write her resumes. That's not right. And I told her I would edit them. So I edited her essays. She got the franchise. And Amazon was so impressed with her essays, they wanted to reprint them on their website as what to do.
Yeah.
So I suddenly found myself writing essays. Your niche will choose you.
Yes, yes, I love that. I love that tip very much. I especially love what you said about the tea shop and well, coffee, tea, wine, and recognizing people didn't want coffee and wine. I think so often it's so easy to get stuck in our head of, this is what the industry needs, or this is what I want to have. And if it doesn't resonate with your audience, I've had to retire courses and programs. And yes, one person was sad about it, but that's besides me. Okay, two people were sad. But doesn't make sense. We can't put our energy into things that aren't paying off for us. And the more you can lean into those things that are, all the better. And wait till you see what I have to say. I won't be saying it today, but you mentioned the rewriting resumes guarantee. Yeah, I have really strong thoughts on that. I mean, I lean with you. And in a social media post and on the replay page, everybody who checks those out, you're going to see more on what Sandra says on that and what I say, because I have very strong thought. You're going to love it, Sandra. Anyway, just to everybody there. Okay, let's see. You shared that you worked in nonprofit management before seeking a position as a resume writer to learn this industry. I have in my notes that this is your fourth. I had that this is your third business, but now I think I understand it's your fifth, right? So we only know a little bit about your diversity, and I think that's one of the really cool things about becoming a resume writer. You showed us the evolution, but just give us a quick outline of some of the other businesses you've had besides the coffee, tea, wine, becoming tea shop.
Well, besides back into the grandma thing, I am one. And actually, I turned 71 in 2 weeks. So I'm closer to 71 anymore than any other age. I spent half my life as an interior designer, which I do have a degree in, and the other half my life in nonprofit management. And the third half of my life as a visual merchandiser and artist.
Oh, nice.
And they all kind of overlapped each other because when I was working as an interior designer, I was also doing brochures for nonprofits. When I was working as an assistant director at an arts museum, where I ran all the tours in Cape May for 14 years. Cape May, New Jersey, if anybody's ever been there. Big resort. It's a Victorian town, one of the top 100 historic towns in the United States. And I ran all the tours. And while I was giving tours and doing all of that, then I was doing freelance design on the side.
Okay.
It's just, then I worked for a chamber of commerce. My last job that I retired from when I was 58, I was with a large chamber of commerce, and I was the legislative director and economic development director. So I've done really diverse things.
Yes.
After I retired, I spent 7 years working for Pier 1 Imports on the sales floor because that was fun. And then I just wasn't able to do that anymore because I couldn't climb ladders to put tables on top of 20-foot shelves. And that's required of all employees.
Yeah, I bet.
And I just reached my limit. But my other business I've been a freelance designer twice. I've designed cross stitch. I have done the craft show circuit, major craft shows, selling my artwork, and I've designed and make furniture from scratch.
Oh, wow.
For a while, I made little stools, and I was known as the Tuffet Lady. I've done a lot of freelance marketing work. I've done freelance window display. I started doing that at Gimbel's window displays.
Oh, I love
And
it.
so, but all of that, believe it or not, the really exciting part of that, all of that plays into my resume writing.
Exactly.
I'm not kidding, because like being an interior designer, part of the service I offer people is and because I'm an artist, I design my own formats.
Yeah.
And I looked at brain studies on how people read these things, and
Mm-hmm.
they go from the top right to the bottom left. So that's where my information goes. I also color code them to the industry. Orange is really big for marketing, dark blue is for attorneys, yellow is this, and you never use red because that's the automatic. Well, that must have made a mistake because it's in red. Color theory has played in. It's just, well, I could go on forever, but anyway, that's to answer your question and then some.
No, but that's brilliant.
My writing, but not my talking.
No, I love it. That's brilliant advice for everyone, truly, because so many people shy away from using color. And I see, unfortunately, we were talking earlier before this, the show started about how many resume writers out there who haven't had, formal indoctrination, either because they have a design background and they're graphically knowledgeable about page layout, or they belong to a professional association like CDI. My guest last week, Grant Cooper, he was like, before I found CDI, I was writing what I would call, fast food resumes, not for fast food workers, but it was like, the difference between like a 5-course meal, gourmet meal, and a fast food drive-through. And that's a big issue. And so we see people like going to the bare minimum and not understanding that people are visual first, more so today than ever. Well, not ever before, but in our age of technology, everything is video driven and visual almost. And so we look with our brain before we even read the words quite often. So I love that advice. And I do see creatives tend to be very successful at transitioning into resume writing. Okay, Janine says that in terms of like letting things go and letting your niche define you, she says, I'm going through that right now. I'm getting rid of the stuff that is not paying off. It's hard because you get so emotionally attached to those things at times. Yes, I've gone kicking and screaming into letting things go, and it always pays off. So you got to do that, especially like a yearly review of what's working and what's not, what needs to change, what prices need to go up. Yeah. All right. So, Janine, and if anyone else is here with us today, if you want to share what you did before you got started in the career industry, let us know in the chat. So, all right, Sandra. Um, so you got recruited from resume writing opportunity to resume writing opportunity. Was it just a natural thing for you to go, yeah, I'm going to business number 5? What led to deciding I want to do a business in this versus I'm retired, I just want to take projects and not have to deal with that? Is it just the entrepreneur in you?
It wasn't my decision.
Oh, okay.
My mentor, who I worked with learning board resume writing for the last 3 years, decided she was retiring. She's about my age. And she said, Sandy, you're ready to go off on your own. So start building your business because I'm not going to be doing this anymore. And I was a writer. And I was, totally freaked. That was in 3 years ago. So 21. And I started writing side gigs when I was in 2016. And that's when I actually started my business. But last year I went LLC. I incorporated, and I'm now looking to hire somebody to train in to help me write because my workload is that level. So really, I got kind of pushed out of the nest, and starting a business for me is easy. I also am a volunteer for SCORE. Have you heard of them?
Mm-hmm.
Corps of Retired Executives. And my bailiwick there is teaching people how to start businesses.
Nice.
And writing business plans. So it was easy for me to do that, but I wasn't sure that the customers were going to come in. So didn't charge enough. And then I got all my colleagues in the resume writing field who do board resumes. They were all getting mad at me because I was undermining their pricing structure.
Mm-hmm.
So they made me raise my prices. And I did. And surprisingly enough, it didn't matter. They told me it wouldn't, but it didn't. So I'm priced now still at the bottom of my market, really, but where I feel it's very fair and comfortable. And I do want to say this, since this is about business. When I started writing resumes, I would do a package, which is a resume, a LinkedIn, and a cover letter. And I got paid $45 for that. When I do a resume and a bio and a LinkedIn for a board candidate, I charge $3,000.
I want everybody to hear that loud and clear. She's saying she's priced at the low end of her market and she's charging $3,000. So,
and I'm booked 3 months out.
Which says you could very easily raise your prices. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think I'm high enough, but yeah, that is the scary jump. And you have to be prepared that first year. You are going to lose your old candidates. Your old clients are going to drift away, but you will have new clients replacing them. That's part of your marketing effort.
Yes. And I think the sooner, and that's such a good point, because I've seen it with people buying, like they wrote for, it would be like if your mentor had said, I'm going to sell you my practice instead of telling you to start your own. And if she had been very low priced, I see that a lot, that people are like, they're excited to take over the practice. And then they realize they want to charge so much more. But now you've got all these people who are used to being charged little and referring people to be charged little. So the sooner you can get your prices up to market value, competitive, the better you're going to stabilize and have referrals who know what to expect and are eager to pay, because, that's the norm.
This is why I actually publish my prices on my website. And I refer everyone who inquires of my services to my website. And the reason I do that, which isn't real common either, is because it saves them time and it saves me time. They don't feel like they're paddling and they don't get embarrassed when I talk to them. So I'm very upfront about it.
And I think at that level of candidate, you have a better chance of them actually following through. It is a challenge. It is a challenge. The more we go down the scale of professional, the less we get them to actually follow through and look at the website. It can be very frustrating, but I agree. You get rid of tire kickers that way. You set expectations. Very valuable. So Janine says, I had been a traffic coordinator. I put commercials on cable for Cox. I had a small business called Beyond Words. I then worked for universities, law firms, and the federal government twice. Started my current business in 2017. It's a common time frame. All right. Thank you for sharing, Janine.
Make a comment to Janine, please.
Yes.
Because this is fascinating. It's a very small world in which I work, because my client base is all over the country, a lot in California, but they all seem to know each other. One of my current clients is the West Coast regional head of Cox Communications. That was just really funny.
Yeah. Oh gosh, it's amazing. I remember the very first time I did a workshop when I was getting my clients to come to, I'd sold them into a once a month job search and interview strategy workshop. And I wanted to start it out with a networking activity. And as the first one started talking about, I asked them to introduce themselves. What were they looking for? Because I wanted to show them the power of networking and, just talking about their goals. And she was saying how she was moving to this really small town and wanted this really specific department in the post office. And I thought, oh, I'm just in so much trouble here. How am I going to show them this value? Even though I know I should know better, but I was still early in my career in the private practice versus the university sector of placement. When we got to like the fourth person, she actually was like literally vibrating in her seat, and she's like, I introduced myself, but I have to say, we need to talk afterwards. And she pointed to the first woman and she said, my mom works at that post office in that town. And I was like, I have goosebumps right now just thinking about it, because it's like such a small world when you really start talking to people. Janine says awesome to you, Sandra. I don't know if you can, if you're
I
monitoring the chat
can.
too. Okay. All right. At what point in your business did you find CDI?
I've known about CDI since the beginning. But, and this is important, I wrote this down because I wanted to be sure that I said this just right. I didn't think I was good enough for CDI. I thought it was an organization kind of above my level. And I didn't know what kind of value I could get out of it, really, and if I could afford it. Because, I mean, your pricing is not, it's very reasonable. But when you're working on $45 for a package, it seems like a lot. And I wish if I could do it over again, you asked me that too earlier. The one thing I would do over again is join CDI earlier. I should have done it. I wish I did not undersell myself. I wish I had not looked, I wish I had the confidence then to join and realize the investment. It's like I tell my clients, the clients I deal with, okay, their salaries are 7 to 8 figures.
Right.
That's where I'm at now. And they can't afford to pay me $3,000 for an entire package to get on a board. I mean, it's like a search firm, as you know, a board search firm charges about $250,000. And now they offer more services, but it's an investment in your future. CDI is an investment. And you have so many freebies and wonderful programs to offer that I'm taking advantage of. You never stop learning.
Right.
So I got involved with CDI 2 years ago and wish it had been sooner.
Better late than never, right? I'm so glad to hear that. But now you've got me thinking, have we pitched CDI incorrectly so that people are intimidated? That's something to think about right there. I don't know how to address that one. I may need a forum to figure that one out. That's actually not thinking we were over pitching it to be out of people's realistic wheelhouse. But it's one of the reasons we went to closing our membership, because we found that the average person, like, you said you joined 2 years ago, but you've been in the industry since, well, you started your business in 2017. So, you waited a while, you wish you hadn't. I was hearing all the time from members when they would be in for a few months and they would say, I can't believe I waited so long. And on average, it was 3 years. 3 years that people put off joining. So closing membership, that whole fear of missing out, and also removing from us the need to feel like we're marketing and asking for people to join all the time. That's not what I do for. I want people to see the value and come. So now it's kind of like, well, you can only join right now, like today. You can only join today, and then I don't know when you can join again. So I'll put that link up again before we're done. But well, thank you. I am honored that you're finding so much value in CDI. I love what we do. All right. If anybody else wants to share in the chat your favorite thing. Janine does say, Sandra, I do a lot of CVs for doctors, researchers, executive level academics, etc. Would it be difficult to transition to the board CV format?
Totally different.
Totally
it's
different.
not difficult to transition, but it took me almost a year, and I was a pretty good writer. Because there are first of all, ATS goes out the window. You don't have to worry about that anymore. But it's mainly a difference between guiding and doing. Boards aren't looking for doers. So the language changes completely. The layout changes completely. It is amazing the difference. In fact, I have a certification. I am a certified writer, and I am currently working for my master certification through CDI. I also recently suggested they don't have a board certification, and I suggested to Laura, you should do that. And this is how responsive they are. Within a day, they did. So, Janine, I would recommend taking their certification on board CVs, learning how to do it. And if Janine is interested in talking to me afterwards or at some other time, you can contact with me through my website at any time. I'd be happy to talk to you, because frankly, I'm looking to hire someone to write board CVs. I hear that, anybody out there?
I hear opportunity knocking. I hear it knocking. Yes, we're also interested in uh, getting some resources together on board resumes too, to help people like Janine out going forward. So that's something that we'll be pursuing as well. I myself I thought I knew everything, but what I've been hearing when you first inquired about, and this is me, I'm transparent. If people have been watching me and you don't know this yet, I'll laugh at myself. I'll share my failures. I thought I had written for everything, and I did do some board stuff back in the day, and it was successful. But when you came to me about that, and I was like, is that really different from I went to Gail, our director of certification, and I'm like, is it really different from the certified executive resume master? Do we really need a certified resume specialist category for board and directors? And she came back, and because I was like, total transparency, I'm not sure, and she came back and was like, yes, and here's why, and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, should we do it? Yes, let's do it. So this is I feel like this is new to me, just like when the portfolio resume came, of age about 5 years ago, and we hunted down someone to present on that topic. That never really evolved into a whole lot, but it's a good opportunity to have in your back pocket. Janine says, I'm just putting the Sandra in there because I know she did say, I would love the opportunity to chat, Sandra. Thank you. You can find, just so everybody knows, CDI members, if you click on the job seeker button, actually it's on your member dashboard, the member directory, and it's also in the main website navigation under job seekers, the Find a Career Pro directory. That's where you can look each other up to find contact information and connect. And then Joan says, I've been having problems with the feed. The chat feed, Joan, or I hope you're not having trouble with the show itself. But we see you now, so welcome. I know you were looking forward to this episode. That's Joan Blumenthal. So I'm glad to see you're here. All right, so you've said so many wonderful things already about CDI, but since I have this as a separate question, let me just double check. Has CDI played any other role specifically in the success you've achieved, or anything that you particularly value over other things in CDI?
The networking cannot be, that is the way to succeed in a business as a resume writer. It's networking. The fact that I work strictly off of referrals anyway, it's people talking to people, talking to people. And and the certifications. I would like to address that. I know I don't want to take too long, and I know we're on a time schedule here. But the certifications are very valuable. You read a lot of controversy about this online. A lot of resume writers say, and a lot of non-resume writers who diss resume writers all the time, you don't need a certification. You don't need a certified writer. That's just baloney. That's a waste of money. Well, that's baloney. And the reason that I got the certifications wasn't because it was to prove to myself, yes, I'm good at this. But as soon as you put certified, those letters after your name, you get more inquiries. It makes a difference in your marketing. It's why I went LLC. I didn't need to go LLC. I could have stayed sole proprietor. It doesn't cost me anymore. It doesn't benefit me anymore, except my level of client, when they have 6 and 7 and 8-figure salaries, if I'm an LLC, I'm trustworthy.
Right.
So those certifications and the networking are two things you can get from CDI that are just unbeatable.
I think that certifications have come to feel like not in CDI, but some people see them as a certification mill entity because other places have made them easy to get and keep without having to continually learn, which I find frustrating because sure, I mean, would we like to make everything super easy? And then of course we'd like to, but holding people to it's an unregulated industry, I guess is what I'm saying. And left to our own devices, sadly, most people get so busy that they will do the bare minimum. And they will think, well, this is good enough. And as I saw last year in a survey, most people weren't even tracking how long it's taking their clients to land positions, in the general resume writing and career coaching community. And all this data is so critical to knowing whether you're on target. So you get certified, if for no other reason than it tells you that you are doing things right. I mean, if you go to a place that, has standards, um, that boosts your confidence considerably. And also, if I'm a job seeker, I know myself. Just when I look for things, I want to know, what has somebody done to make me want to do business with them. I will Google somebody. I will look for, are there credentials? Are there good reviews? Are there bad reviews? And, everybody can get a bad review because there's trolls out there and whatnot. But this stuff matters, and it helps a job seeker who just pulled up 1.5 million resume writers on LinkedIn to see that this one has a master certification. I mean, I think we have like under 80 certified master resume writers worldwide in CDI, which means out of 1.5 million, that's a pretty solid standout. Joan says, having problems with the show itself. It could be your internet connection. I haven't seen any disconnects on our end. It could be the platform. I don't know. I'm so sorry to read that it's not coming through for you effectively. Maybe switch if you're on, looks like you're on YouTube. Can you go over to the LinkedIn feed? Because Janine seems to be doing good over there. Technology, going to make us crazy. Joan, Janine, anyone else, if you want to share a favorite part, ROI from CDI, feel free to drop it in the chat. And we're going to move on. And Sandra, you're doing great. You're not over talking. I'm just adding to it, as I like to be conversational in these, because otherwise I get squirmy. Janine says, I did not get certifications for so long because I possess a PhD that included taking dedicated courses for coaching included. However, I found that my clients don't always understand the PhD degree level, but they do really get certifications. Now I'm getting certifications too. Yeah, I have a portfolio from Janine right now for a certification I need to get busy on. All right, that's that. I shouldn't, it's not up to me to say. If she wants to put it in the chat, she can. But it is one of my courses, so I get to review it. All right, so Sandra, what has having your own business made possible for you in your life?
To live.
To live.
I'm sorry. I had a really bad time 10 years ago, and I think I put this in my feed, and you mentioned it. About actually, it was 12 years ago. My husband turned 50, and after all those years of marriage, decided that he needed not to be married anymore. So he left, and my mother died, and I lost my job at the same time.
Oh my gosh.
And he insisted on selling the house. He wanted his share of the house, which means I also lost my home because I had to move out. So I ended up actually in a mold infested apartment where I woke up one morning and the SWAT team was on my patio because they were breaking down a drug dealer next door.
Oh my gosh. Oh.
And I was on food stamps. I had gone from legislative director of a major chamber of commerce to food stamps. And I needed to find something to do. And nobody would hire me because I was 58, 60 years old then. No matter what I did, I couldn't get hired by anybody because I was too old. So that's when I decided to become a resume writer. And that's why I joined a resume business, because my thought is to go to the source. Well, what am I doing wrong?
Yeah.
And that's why I did that. So really, and you can see where I've come now. I mentioned Johnny Was. I love Johnny Was, the designer. I'm wearing a Johnny Was shirt. And it cost me about 3 weeks of groceries to buy it. And I've never had this is the first time I've been able to do this in 12 years. So my Social Security check is just exactly what my rent is.
This is exactly what?
My rent.
Okay.
So after I pay my rent, I have no money. And this is, people do not realize that people are resume writers for a real career, nor do they realize that if you really pay attention to it and don't do it as a side gig, you can actually make really good money at this. And I'm sorry, the money is so important, as are the hours. I can get up at 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning. I can go out for a walk at lunch. I can work at 7 at night if I want to. I can go to bed at 2 a.m. All I have to do is I have deadlines to meet, and I need to meet them. And I don't ever have to worry about being fired.
Right, exactly. And if you want to charge $3,000, you can. And if tomorrow you wake up and you want to charge $4,000, you just got to get out to your website and make that change.
My customers will let me know if I've stepped over the line.
Yeah, right.
I've only had one customer unhappy with me in all these years. I've been very fortunate, and I have actually fired one myself.
Trust me, I know. I can understand.
Hey, Joan.
There are some people we'll never make happy, and sometimes we're like, how did I not see red flags there? How did that get by me? It happens to all of us.
That's a piece of advice. I vet every client before I speak to them. Don't take red flag clients.
Right. Trust your gut. I once spoke to someone, and this is very basic advice from she was from a psychologist, and she said, you really have to trust your gut. She's like, do you listen to your gut about people? And I was younger, and I was like, I don't know. And she was like, well, think of somebody who has become a lifelong friend. Can you remember back to when you first met them, what your impression of them was? And I was like, okay, yeah. She's like, it was good, right? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, okay, now I want you to think of somebody who ended up being trouble in your life. She goes, think back to that first moment. And I did. And I was like, oh my gosh, because literally I can picture the person now. I remember meeting the person and thinking, this person is not a nice person. And then I got to know them, and I was like, oh, they're just in a bad place, and they're really a good person having trouble. I should have trusted my gut, We get the signals. I mean, certainly some people are good gaslighters, and, we have all these great terms today. They are out there to trick us, but in most cases, yeah, just listen. If you're having doubts, and I don't mean doubts about your own imposter syndrome or your own insecurity if you're good enough, but that person putting out vibes, listen loudly. Thank you, Sandra. All right, Joan says she was on Facebook and now she's on YouTube and doing good. I'm glad. I'm sorry you had to switch. And she wears the same brand as well. Yeah. This is a brand I'm not familiar with, but then I'm kind of a Hawaiian designer junkie. So ask me any vintage Hawaiian brand, I can tell you. Or Joan and I were talking recently, and she was talking about a brand, and I was like, well, I remember the corporate days. I still have my gold and lapis lazuli Mont Blanc pen, that was such a status symbol of the 90s, right? To have your Mont Blanc. Oh goodness. Okay, let me get back on track. All right. Janine says, by the way, my daughter's name is Sandra. Let's see, you guys have kismet there. There's a connection. All right. Janine, Joan, anyone else, if you want to share what having your own business has made possible for you, please drop it in the chat. And Sandra, so you did say that, you wish you had joined CDI sooner. Is there anything else that you wish you had known or done differently when you were starting out?
Well, since it's my fifth business, actually, no. And this is my most successful business. It is the most successful. I could not have grown it without the mentors and the network that I made. I worked very, very hard to reach out, and that's what I know we're getting close to finishing up, right? I just want to reach out and tell people my slogan, my logo is reach higher. And that's how I feel, because I don't know who's old enough to remember the old phrase to grab the brass ring. I used to think everybody knew that, and then I realized that I'm old and people don't even know what rouge is. It's blusher these days.
Mhm.
Um, or a teacher told me I was vaccinated with a phonograph needle, and nobody knows what a phonograph is,
I
which
do.
is a record player for you youngins. Um, don't be afraid to grab that brass ring. It used to be when you took a merry-go-round ride, they hung a brass ring a little bit out of your reach, and anybody who was on the ride that could grab it got a free ride. Don't ever be afraid. I remember when I had my tea shop, when it was still coffee, tea, and wine, and I actually wrote to the inventor of Mr. Coffee and asked him to be my mentor, and he was for 2 years. Sometimes you think it's the most absurd overreach, but if you're prepared to hear no, it can open up amazing doors. So that's the one thing I try to instill in my clients also. Confidence is everything. I got my first interior design job at the age of 24. I was one of 100 applicants. I had no experience. I hadn't got my degree yet. All I had was visual merchandising and gimbals in my background. There was someone there that graduated from the Sorbonne. I got the job. And they told me it was because of my confidence. It matters. So don't be afraid to start this business, run this business, but run it like a business. And realize that marketing is half the time you're going to spend. You cannot run a resume business as a side gig. I said that earlier, and it's worth repeating.
Absolutely, absolutely. And don't, unless you have a commitment I don't know about, don't worry about time. We're doing really good. Um,
Oh,
we're actually, I think, ahead
oh,
despite
okay.
my chatting. That is great advice. I've been wandering around today, and maybe I'm 55, folks. So I'm not. I consider that like Sandra and I and some others of us, we straddle the line in a very great way. Knowing these phrases, like Janine says, I know those terms, LOL. We know about all the ancient stuff, and we also know about all the modern stuff. So it's like we're these walking repositories of knowledge. But I found myself kind of grumbling around this morning, going, when did the idea of some grit, determination, and hard work go out the window for what is involved in successfully building a business? It seems so often that everybody is, and I mean, CDI, we're all about making it as easy as possible and not having to reinvent the wheel. But so often I see people, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. That's okay if you don't want to do it, but somebody has to do it. You need to pay someone to do it if you're not going to do it. Um, but that's just kind of taking what you're saying in another direction. But it goes along with what I took from what you were saying when I was reading, the show notes, that grabbing for the brass ring is like stepping out of your comfort zone. It's like you said, being confident. And when you don't feel confident, acting as if you're confident and knowing that with the experience comes the confidence. This is how it works. It truly, truly does. When I ran a welfare to work program many, many years ago, I got that placement level up into the 90th percentile. Pretty much, if you weren't in jail or hospitalized or incarcerated, well, those are the same. Sorry, jail, and there's something else I'm missing. Treatment, maybe. If you weren't in one of those places, I was going to help you get to work at a living wage. And but I was like the first person to believe in these people sometimes in their entire lives. And you can't just look in a mirror and be like, I'm good enough, I'm strong enough, and gosh darn it, I deserve. You have to act. You have to act. And through the full action of acting, you will become, right? Sorry, I get very excited about that topic.
And I'd like to add to that too. I'll tag on to you now. I read an article this morning about, we should celebrate silver-haired women, silver hairs. which I took offense at because I agree with it completely. But what color is my hair? I'm a red blonde. Okay.
Okay.
I don't dye my hair. I'm 71 years old. This is my natural hair color. We're
Nice.
not all gray at 40 and 50. So
Right.
there again, it's the kind of prejudice that bias that is not even conscious bias. It's just here's someone who celebrates ageism or celebrates anti-ageism who still thinks that way.
Yeah. Yeah. I know.
And so confidence, yes, really, really important to have confidence and to realize you have biases against yourself too.
Yes.
And that's why I didn't say this, and I do want to say this. I started concentrating several years ago on people with disabilities, people of color, what they call the underserved group. I still do that, but I do it on a board level now. And I started working with people who just couldn't get hired because of bias. And one of the things I studied was how to get around that. You mentioned earlier about the tells. I learned the tells, and I'd like to share one of those with the audience if that's okay. And Joan says she's my contemporary, so she'll get this. You younger people might not. One of the ways that ATS systems are programmed by some people is if you skip two spaces after a period.
Oh gosh.
That is not a
Typewriter.
lie. That's true because I used to always, I belonged to a major human resource association, and we discussed it because young people skip one, old people skip two. It's like an AOL address.
Yeah.
So it took me 2 years to teach myself to stop doing that, and I had to skip one. But that's the kind of stuff. And to your point with the jail, one of the things they look for, and one of the reasons you have to cover it in some way, are work gaps, because they can make the assumption that you were in prison during that time, or in jail, or in trouble of some sort.
Yeah.
I learned all kinds of things that can get your resume redlined without you even knowing they asked.
Right. Right. Oh no, it's yeah, there are so many intricacies that someone not seasoned wouldn't understand. Like I wouldn't know the things I know if I hadn't run a university placement program and worked with employers and saw what and would I, I was in a position where after a job was hired, I could be like, talk to me. I want to send you the right people, and I would learn, and I would find out about the interviews, yeah, there's so much out there, but don't be intimidated by that because we want you to learn it, and that's why things like this exist. Um, Joan says Sandra and I are contemporaries. Sandra read that already. Janine says, I'm right behind you, Laura. I turned 55 in June. And she also says, LOL, I've heard that too. Yeah, that's from the typewriter, folks. Anybody who didn't have to start out on the typewriter, we always had to do two spaces. And I'm still correcting people writing resumes today on that who had never been in a position to have to learn. It's one space. Yeah, craziness. Oh, okay. That's great advice. Is there anything else? And we do have time. So if somebody was considering a career in the field or struggling in their business right now, any other pieces of advice you'd share with them?
I've pretty much covered the ones that I really wanted to go over is have a business plan, which we've kind of touched on. Choose a niche, but be ready to pivot, because that to me is number one. Become known as an authority in your field. Why you get certifications for one reason. Why I'm doing an interview today with Laura, because I reached out to her. I actually responded to her on something she had written. I didn't reach out for an interview. She contacted me for that. But I reached out to her and said, I'm a new member and I really like what you said. I understand what you're saying. That's cool. So don't be afraid to reach out to people. I get referrals, so I take every chance I get this to earn that reputation where people will come to me. And I was told by several large nationwide groups of women, because I work with women so heavily to try to get women in positions of authority. I'm considered one of the top board writers in the country, was about the most incredible comment. I'm not complimenting myself or patting myself on the back. When I was told that by a major woman, that was so meaningful to me. She said I was one of the top of the handful in the whole country. So that's really important. If you become an expert in your field and don't choose every field, then show your expertise, posting things like that, which I don't do. I don't believe in social media, so I don't do that. I don't post on LinkedIn just because I never have time. These are things I need to do myself. And protect that reputation once you get it. I've had my identity stolen twice on LinkedIn. And yesterday, when I checked my website, I designed my own website. I work with a webmaster. Yesterday, when I checked in on my website, I discovered 85 people between 8 and 12 o'clock in the morning. 85 people had tried to hack my site.
No.
But I have firewalls on there to keep that from happening, and they worked. So the more well-known you become, the more you open yourself up to that too. So always be checking to make sure people haven't stolen your identity. And for gosh sake, when you're writing a resume, do not recommend people put their certification and license numbers for things on LinkedIn, because anybody can co-opt that.
Right.
Good. And guarantees. We're back to the guarantees. And my feeling on guarantee is if somebody says to you they offer a guarantee, run the other way. Because you cannot guarantee. The most I guarantee my clients is that I will do the best job I can for them, that I will give them my best work. It is only 1/3 of the process. The other 2/3 of the interview and how you apply. And the old spray and pray thing, people still do that. They still think I sent out 100 applications this month. Why am I not getting a job?
Mm-hmm.
Give me my money back. It was your resume. You're going to get that. Don't fall for it. Don't offer a guarantee. It cannot be guaranteed. That's unrealistic. So
Absolutely.
That's my advice in a nutshell.
No, I love that. When I was reading, when I was reading your notes about what we're probably going to talk about, and just so everybody knows, there's always some written tips that we share with the replay, and across social media that we dribble out each day following the show, that cover some additional items that Sandra hasn't talked about today. I love that one. That works out that way, that we have some stuff. But when I saw the piece about I started to say this earlier and held back, but the rewrite for free guarantee, I apologize if you have that. I'm not laughing at you in any way, because I feel like you can do anything you want. It's your business. You spin it to be powerful. This is why this is the best way. If it makes job seekers feel more confident in hiring you, then anything can work out. I have always been anti-guarantee. First of all, every course I've ever bought that had a guarantee, there was always loopholes. I think that stuff is the biggest BS, because it's like you get in there and realize this is pedantic crap that you don't want to do. You're only getting your money back if you complete every single exercise in the 15-week program and attend every live event. So I think a lot of them are crap. But anyway, I'm just going to share it, and I have a mini summary of it in one of the social posts that's going out. I remember the first time somebody asked me as a resume writer whether I had a guarantee. I was just so surprised, because how do you guarantee what somebody's going to do with the resume? And like you said, if they're going to actually strategically apply, customize each resume, only apply for what they're qualified for, follow up, find jobs that aren't listed. There's so many things. And I was like, well, what do you mean? What kind of guarantee? And they're like, well, I saw this. Other companies are offering if it doesn't work, we'll rewrite it for free. Well, I can't say I was born being able to think fast on my feet, but after teaching people how to interview and creating the industry's first job interview certification that's been taught to universities and military transition centers, I become fast on my feet. And I thought about that for a second, and I was like, a rewrite for free guarantee. I'm like, I've just shown you my testimonials that are all metrics focused, showing how my clients typically land positions within 30 days, and with increased salaries, they get more interviews, more offers than they've ever had on their own. I said, my process allows me to do this right the first time. I'm like, in maybe my entire career, I've had maybe 5 people come back. And in every situation, it wasn't the resume. It was that they opted not to work with me to learn how to effectively job search. And once we figured out what they were doing wrong by putting them through that part of the program, they went out and were successful. So absolutely, of course, I want you to come back to me if you have issues so I can help you get straight. But honestly, a rewrite for free, that just tells me somebody's going to what? Take their best shot. Oh, I hope I do this right the first time and they don't come back. And then when you do, what? They're going to take another shot? Oh, and so, I mean, that was my rebuttal to somebody having a rewrite for free guarantee. And of course, the person hired me. But again, it mattered that I had metrics driven testimonials to stand behind. It wasn't just me going, look at all these people who said they feel more confident after working with me. I had the numbers, I had the specifics, I had the proof. So, but yes, I guarantees seemed really great in the beginning, and now there's like, we can always spin. So we got a great video out there on SWOT analyze your weaknesses and turn them into strengths. So it's like, if there's anything, like I learned this with job seekers years ago. And Sandra, you've probably seen this, and Janine and Joan, but that job seeker who comes to you, they've had an amazing career, they've been a VP, a this and a that, and now suddenly they're unemployed and they're panicked because they have a GED and didn't officially graduate from high school. And I'm like, see this track record? This is not going to matter. But we need to get you out of the headspace of worrying about it. And we need to, knowing that this is a fear and a concern of yours, this is something we prepare for. When somebody goes, oh, not that we put high school on the resume, but if the subject comes up, if somehow we get into education and in your head, all you can think of is, I only have a GED, we need an answer for that ahead of time. That's where strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, and a plan to overcome them. Dun, dun, dun.
Do you have time for a 1-minute ad to that?
Oh, yes.
Okay. I would just like to mention, I do not have a college degree. And that's why I couldn't get a job at 58. I had held such high-level jobs without one, but I couldn't put a college degree on my resume. And that's why I learned how to write resumes. The real story behind this, what's really cool about this, is that I was the partnership chair for a different resume organization a few years ago on their board of directors. And I contacted my old college where I did go to college. I just didn't graduate. I contacted my old college to be a partner. And they said yes. And we got talking, and I have been invited to teach their students how to break into the resume market, how to write resumes to get jobs for themselves. So I didn't get a degree from my college, but I'm teaching at my college.
Yep. Doesn't surprise me at all. Exactly.
Beautiful irony. Don't ever give up on yourself. You said it. Get out of the headspace.
Right. And today, with everything you know about resumes, I bet you could land a job. I mean, I used to help people who wanted to, before I even knew that you had to have a bachelor's to have a certain type of job. I was helping all these clients get interviews for those jobs without it by how we set up the resume. Mm-hmm. And we found out there's a legal requirement for this type of job to have a bachelor's. I'm not going to tell you guys what it is because I want you to go, Laura, you're an idiot. But it was the 90s stuff. You couldn't Google everything back then. You know, there wasn't a Google. Maybe Yahoo came in at some point in there. But yeah, I bet you could overcome that now if it wasn't a mandated requirement of the job. All right, really quickly here. Janine says, yes, no guarantees, can't control how they apply or interview. And Joan says, share about the work gaps. So I assume, Joan, that you mean covering gaps on the resume. That's a really big subject because gaps come in all sorts of shapes and sizes. I can give a quick summation a generalist summation because I approach every gap individually. Actually, I'm not going to take a generalist. I'm going to take an extreme example. And maybe Sandra will have something she wants to add too. But at one point, I had a client come to me. He was a uh, director of quality assurance, but he had not worked in like 11 years because he had a stroke and he had to learn how to walk and talk and do everything again. And when he came to me, his resume had 11-year gap. He said, had a stroke and on his resume. And then it had jobs. And I mean, these jobs were back now before the point I would normally even include them on a resume, but with notable like DOD and Kennedy Space Center type entities. If you can hear my cat crying, she's not being abused. So just tune her out. Shush. And he had a typo on his resume too that showed like him working in the 1800s. So this was a super challenging situation because you want them to get the interview. So like the first thing I had him do was go join ASQ right away. Join the professional association. Start reading everything he can. Start attending local meetings.
Volunteer.
Get involved so that you're up to date with today, and you can put that on that you're an active member. And then we had to get creative. And I think I have a template for this in Resumes for Dummies, my book. But in these severe cases, what I will do is I'll do a summary. And of course, when we get into online applications and ATS, it gets even more funky. But my favorite thing to do, and sometimes these people need 2 resumes and they need to be networking their way into jobs more often than applying online and hoping to, get picked up. But I like to do a little listing of the job titles, company names, and years spent before I get into actual description. So you got that eye candy, and that's mid-page because I'm all about you need that unique selling proposition and that branding and those keywords up front. I'm talking about when we get to our employment section. I'm not starting with a gap. I'm starting with hitting them with the good stuff, but not the dates, the number of years in each role. And then I go into each in order of relevance, and then with the number of years still. And then at the very bottom, I have a timeline. And we always have to get creative. I think that the best advice I would have on gaps are, again, we approach each of them differently. In his case, I believe we put home care to family member, because guess what? You're the family that you're taking care of. And I have people do that when they're a stay-at-home mom, when they're taking care of an aging parent. It's not an employer's need to know, and it won't benefit you to have them know that you've got children under a certain age at home that might need mom or dad more often and keep you from work. So home care to family member is my favorite gap cover because it gives nothing away. And that was what we put down in the timeline. And when we got to jobs that were more than like 15 years past, I just didn't put dates down. I just had them down there. Opportunity to talk in the interview. And yes, he did get re-employed. So that I just gave you it's a visual is so much better, I think, but hopefully that made some sense. Sandra, did that make sense to you?
Absolutely. It makes total sense to me. It's the stuff I also advise when you do that, because I also specialize in career transitions and military to civilian, which, by the way, Janine, if you spent 2 years in federal, I also specialize in federal resumes, which are a whole different animal again. And there's a demand for that.
Yeah.
And those people, I've put a lot of those military people who, because they've traveled all over the place and they have gaps all over the place. So yeah, everything Laura said is absolutely true.
Trailing spouses have it hard, especially. But they're neat people to work with. All right. Let's see. Anything else you'd like our audience to know in terms of encouragement, lessons learned, final thoughts?
No, I'm pretty topped out. I would say that's about it. I really appreciate the opportunity today. And yeah, I have a million more things I could say. And I definitely have funny stories to tell. And I love my clients. I do. It means so much to me in this later part of my life. I get too involved with them perhaps, but I love my clients and I love their stories. Great. Working internationally has opened me up to the world. And I guess I will share one funny story if that's all right.
Yeah.
When I was working last year, I worked with a client who she actually has won 8 Emmys.
Wow.
Or she's on the Oscar committee, but I think she's won 8. No, she's won 8 Oscars. She's won 8 Oscar awards, and it's for backgrounds though. She does. She worked on Madagascar. She's worked on a lot of Disney films. She does all of that that work in the background that goes on. I can't remember what it's called. She used to work for Zynga, which invented candy. It's some big games.
Candy Crush.
Anyway, that's who she is, and she was hiring me to do her resume package because she wants to go on the Disney board. So that was her goal. And while she was on the phone with me, the Silicon Valley Bank crashed while she was on the phone with me, and all her money was in it. And she insisted on not hanging up. She kept me on the phone while she was talking on another phone to her lawyer and her banker and ran me around. We were on video. I'm sorry. She kept me on Zoom while she was on her phone running around talking to these other people while she was in the car driving to the bank and while she was standing at the front door waiting for the bank to open so she could withdraw all her money before the crash came. And having this interview with me. And I was living it, even though I'm the country away because I'm in Pennsylvania. And then what was really the icing on the cake was later on in that evening, there she was on CBS News, standing there talking to me on the phone. Television. And I just got to tell you, it gives me chills to even say that because I have a lot of those stories. Your clients, it's an amazing world out there, and it's amazing what you'll be opened up to.
I love that. That's a great close. I've always said that this is an industry with a soul where you can make a tremendous living while making an amazing difference. I have different, I never had, there's like no patented phrase. I kind of change it around each time, but it's an industry with a soul. You know, we get to help people be successful, and there's really no better feeling in my life than, well, I have good feelings, but you know what I mean? It's so rewarding. It's so rewarding. And what Sandra, for those of you who are following along and don't see the chat, what Sandra was saying, oh yeah, it was because Janine said my niche is military transition and federal resumes. Again, some kismet there. Janine says, funny story. I had a French Special Forces military member client who worked for NATO. He needed a resume writer. However, he wasn't the person who found me. His mother in France did a web search and found me. When he went home to France, we did a Zoom call, and I got to officially thank his mom. Aw, oh, that's so cute. I love it. I should do, if I thought anyone would be interested, it would be fun to do a share stories. I actually posted on Sunday on social media, and I was like, tell me your most interesting career before you started your business. And barely anybody commented. There are some interesting ones, but I mean, I think there's 3 or 4 on the Facebook group and maybe 2 on the LinkedIn post, and that's it. And I'm like, God, I thought that would be, I'm so interested to know, because I know we all have these such diverse backgrounds. I mean, I raised butterflies. It doesn't get weirder than that. Anyway, this has been wonderful. I've loved having you as my guest, Sandra. And for anyone who watches the replay or is here with us now, as I sort of said earlier, we're going to be highlighting some of Sandra's tips on our social media channel starting tomorrow. There are, I think, I have tips Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday from Sandra going out. So those will be on all our channels. Well, my LinkedIn And then CDI's Facebook group, and CDI's Instagram is where you can read those. Or if you are already on our list for Career Directors Internet, careerdirectors.com, you're going to get an email tomorrow with a link to the replay, which all the better, because I spend the time to gather all the deep dive resources, the free ones that Sandra mentioned that are available to non-members for getting a taste of CDI, and the inner circle ones for our members. So I've been making a list as we've been talking today of the ones I need to go and include before we send that out in the morning. So it's really valuable that you go over to the site. And let me share with you really quickly. Actually, before I do that, I need to ask you just in the chat, if you would just thank Sandra for being here with us and sharing all her stories and advice. I would appreciate it. I am so grateful. John says, I commented. For some reason, another comment's not coming through, Joan. All right, next week, doing things a little bit different. Anybody who's watching this or listening or follows the replay, you're the first to know that the Toast of the Resume Industry Tory Awards is going into its 24th season, starting next week. The awards will open for 2024, and we're going to kick those off. I don't have a guest next week. It's just me, and I am talking about the ROI and how to grow your resume writing business with the power of a Tory Award, because it literally is the lowest cost, highest ROI way for a resume writer to catapult themselves to success. And all it takes is time and energy with a project you probably already have. We're not making you write something new. It's clients who you get permission from in one of 10 categories or all 10 categories. There's fancy resume categories, and there's what we call classic design categories. So I'm going to be talking all about that, answering questions. But our members who have even just been nominated have told us how it literally doubled their business. So you're going to want to learn about this if you're a resume writer, trying to make your mark and want to be able to command ideal pricing and work with your ideal clients, because they tell me, and we have the testimonials on the site, that people will line up for that. Janine says, thank you, Sandra. I have already connected with you on LinkedIn and sent you a message on your website. All right. So join me next Wednesday, 3:45 Eastern. And I will be talking about the Tories. So before we go, I'm going to cover Sandra's face for just a moment here. Sorry, Sandra. I want everybody to go over to CDI. All you have to do is go to careerdirectors.com, click on free stuff, or do /free stuff. You can join our community, access the free deep dive lessons, see the replays, take the 1-minute quiz to identify the number one thing that's blocking you from six-figure success, and it will curate all of the free lessons and tell you what you should be focusing on. Hey, I'm really proud of these lessons because we have a member quoted on the page who, at the time he was not a member, he used the free resources, built a six-figure business before he even joined. So it is very much worth your time to go check those out. And I do want to mention before we go, you can still slide in. This is the last day membership will be open for probably 2 to 3 more months. This was a 48-hour window to join CDI and take advantage of all the great stuff we have. We have 6 included member events happening between now and June, and we're lining up others as we speak. Great networking. All my guests talk about the networking and the connection in CDI. And we do all these included events. If you add it up, if you're used to paying even $40 per event, and you did just one a month with CDI, it's going to more than pay for your membership. But what's super powerful is I myself have invested 5 figures in learning how to make our events engaging. You never come to a CDI live event where you don't connect directly with at least one other person. They are amazing. And even if you come to a networking event or an educational event, you download some best practice tip sheets, you watch an advanced webinar. We have a library of like 100 on-demand audio and video webinars. Or you just grab all the done for you tip sheets for job seekers, and you've made your money back a zillion times. So this is the secret link. If you go to the website, you're going to see the wait list. This or the social media posts that I put out today is the only way to get these links. So careerdirectors.com/buy/membership. And that will take you to the page. If you can't find it, DM me. Send me an email, info@careerdirectors.com. We will get you there. All right. So that is the show. Remember, we're talking Tories next week. Watch for all the wonderful tips in the replay with Sandra that are going to be available to you starting tomorrow. Sandra, thank you. I loved having you as a guest. I love your energy, your enthusiasm, your positivity. Joan says, Sandra, this was awesome. Thanks so much. It really was. I appreciate you. So
you guys were awesome too.
Wonderful. Yeah, it's always good when people engage with us. So with that, I'm going to close this out, and I hope I will see everybody back next week, and bring your friends. Fly higher.